Jimmy never expected that the creative advertisement he worked so hard to produce, despite its great results, would lead to his boss being very unhappy due to his impulsive actions. The older generation couldn't accept such an ad, believing it brought shame to their law firm, and they voted to fire Jimmy. Fortunately, Clifford decided to give Jimmy another chance, but from now on, his actions would be under strict supervision. Jimmy suspected that Kim might get caught up in this, so he hurriedly called to contact her. But in the end, it was still too late. At this time, Xiao Jin, who was completely unaware, was being tamed by Howard. Hearing that Jimmy had done something out of line again, Xiao Jin did not defend himself or blame Jimmy's behavior, but admitted that he had seen Jimmy's advertisement. Howard blamed Xiao Jin for not reporting to him after seeing the advertisement, which resulted in his law firm being blamed by his partners. Looking at Chuck's expression as if he owed him something in his previous life, it seems not right. Jimmy will not give up until Xiao Jin punishes him to his satisfaction. Jimmy, who had not contacted Xiao Jin for a whole day, hurried to the HHM law firm to apologize to him, but Xiao Jin was no longer in the office. He asked the cleaning staff and found out about Xiao Jin. Howard assigned him to the lowest level of composite file work. Jimmy admitted that he did not tell Xiao Jin because he thought the boss would accept his plan after seeing the effect of the advertisement. He felt that he had implicated Xiao Jin and wanted to find Howard to argue, but Xiao Jin had warned him not to do so. Because Xiao Jin had guaranteed Jimmy's going to DM law firm, Xiao Jin was willing to accept Howard's punishment. Jimmy still wanted to argue with Howard, but was stopped by Xiao Jin. Jimmy had no choice but to leave in disappointment. Then he came to Chuck's house. He believed that the punishment of Xiao Jin was a decision instigated by Chuck to Howard, and he was ready to settle accounts with Chuck. However, Chuck was lying on the sofa with a space blanket on, shivering, because as long as Jimmy did something that made him ashamed, he would get sick. Jimmy added another space blanket. Drink another glass of water and have a good rest. When you wake up, you can have a good argument with him. Jimmy sat here all night. When Chuck woke up the next day, Jimmy asked him why he wanted to punish Xiao Jin. Chuck said he had no idea. He put all the human resources decisions on Howard because he had suffered losses in this regard. Jimmy accused Howard of being Chuck's puppet. Chuck was not to be outdone. He retorted that if Howard listened to me, he would not recommend you to DM law firm. He guessed that it was Xiao Jin who persuaded Howard to recommend Jimmy to DM law firm. That's why Howard was so angry and demoted Xiao Jin. Jimmy told Chuck to be angry with himself instead of Xiao Jin. Chuck laughed at Jimmy for taking himself too seriously, and said that Xiao Jin was paying for his own mistakes because he didn't consider the interests of his law firm. Jimmy didn't stop Kim from running the ad without permission. Hearing this, Jimmy told Chuck that Kim was innocent and didn't know she was running the ad without the boss's approval. Chuck pointed out that Kim didn't defend herself for her ignorance. Jimmy explained that was because Kim didn't want to embarrass him. Chuck believes that Kim's trust in Jimmy is her biggest mistake. Hearing this, Jimmy angrily berates Chuck, feeling that he hasn't done anything that wrong. Just one ad, and it only aired once. Jimmy reiterates that the ad performed exceptionally well, which only infuriates Chuck more. He points out that Jimmy's main problem is that he focuses solely on the results without caring about the process. He believes that Jimmy has broken the rules and turned Kim into an accomplice. Chuck seizes on Jimmy's mistakes, taking the moral high ground to give him a harsh lesson, and is surprised that Clifford hasn't fired Jimmy, considering their last fallout was because Chuck didn't want Jimmy to be a lawyer. Jimmy negotiates with Chuck, saying he can give up his legal career, but he wants Chuck to lift the punishment on Kim. Clearly, Chuck isn't going to be swayed by Jimmy's reasoning. Chuck points out that if Jimmy wants to ruin his own future, he can do it easily without Chuck's help. He just needs to make a few more mistakes. He even kindly reminds Jimmy that if he doesn't hurry to work, he'll be late. After going back and forth for a while, Jimmy doesn't get the outcome he wanted and instead gets a harsh lesson from his brother. Do you think Chuck was right in this situation?